In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains the reality of life and how people get transformed.
Well, and there's another fundamental category, which we alluded to, which is horrible thing that lives at the bottom of a pit that will devour you. And that has a psychological reality and a objective reality. And that's, as I said, that's equivalent to the story of Jonah being gobbled up by the whale. That happens, that sort of story is very common. Pinocchio is a story like that, right? Pinocchio has an existential problem. He doesn't know how to be a real boy. It turns out that in order to become a real boy, we might regard that as a fully developed individual, he has to go down to the bottom of the ocean, into a whale, and rescue his father. Well, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see the kinship between that story and the story of Jonah. It's the same story. Jonah had to reestablish his relationship with God the Father in order to successfully make a passage from aimless and disobedient character to someone who was alive on shore and pursuing a particular path. It's the same motif. It's a very, very, very common motif. And the reason for that is that that's how people transform. You know, they hit an obstacle of some sort that just blows them into pieces. They go down into the depths, into the abyss. And they live down there for a while, and it's not pleasant. And maybe they learn something while they're down there, if they're lucky, and they get back up. And that's the story of human development. You never learn something without having something small die. And sometimes you learn something and something big dies. And then, you know, you put yourself back together and you pick up the pieces and you emerge unscathed, hopefully, and perhaps transformed, and you carry on. And so the human developmental story isn't an upward march in a linear manner, you know, up an even slope. It's perhaps upwards and onwards, but it's like this. It's punctuated by catastrophes. And of course you guys know that, because obviously, I mean, how many people in this room have been seriously unhappy at one point in their life for more than 2 weeks? Okay, is there anyone who hasn't had that experience? Really? Yes? Have you not had that experience? Oh, yeah, oh, sorry, I thought you raised your hand. Has anybody not had that experience? Okay, so maybe not you? Well, that's good. Congratulations. That's really amazing. So, it's coming. So, yeah. So the thing is, you know, here's one way of looking at it. That's reality. Reality is that your environment is punctuated by descents. Your pathway is punctuated by descents. And when you're ascending, that's one place. And when you're descending and at the bottom, that's another place. And I can tell you, and this will help you with your interpretation of stories, is that the times when you descend is equivalent to a voyage to the underworld. That's what a voyage to the underworld means in mythology. The bottom has fallen out and down you go. And you know this sort of thing because, look, if I say we're all skating on thin ice, like, is there anybody here who doesn't know what that means? Okay, so what does it mean? What does it mean?
One mistake and the ice could break, sort of dealio.
Right, the ice can fall out at any time, and then what happens? Yeah, down you go. Right, and it's cold down there. Yeah, and maybe you don't get back up. Yeah, and it's the sort of story that sort of sends a chill down your spine. And it should, because that's life. And so, one of the things that I really like about advanced personality theory is that it takes that into account. It says, yeah, that's life. Okay, now that we've established that, what do we do? And so then it becomes something like this. It's not so much, how do you stop yourself from descending and ascending? Because good luck with that. But since you're going to have to do that, how do you do it? And so part of the reason that I called this course Personality and Its Transformations is because one thing that you can learn about yourself is who you are, and that's really useful. But the other thing that you can learn about yourself is how it is that you can conduct yourself across time. And that means you're going to have to conduct yourself so that you can weather storms. And some of those might be you make a mistake and the ice breaks, you know, and some of it is, yeah, the ice breaks. And it's no mistake at all. It's just how it is. You know, so when one of your parents develops Alzheimer's disease, for example, well, you could say that's your mistake because you're not smart enough to do anything about it. And, you know, you better clue in, because otherwise the disease is going to continue. But on the other hand, really thinking about it as a personal fault seems inappropriate. It's just a catastrophe that's associated with being alive. And that's what life is, you know. And so one of the things you see, for example, in all of the major trends of religious thinking all around the world, and I talk about religious thinking because those are the deepest kinds of stories. That's really what makes them religious, by the way. It's always the same message. Life is suffering. And the reason for that is because we skate on thin ice. Okay, and you can say, well, we should thicken up the damn ice, and fair enough, you know, right, definitely. But you should also prepare yourself to swim so that when you fall in, you don't die.
Thanks for watching.